Hello and welcome to a brand new installment of Nintendo News Report for Saturday, November 26th, 2016. I'm your host, Alexander Kalafi. Today, joined by two of my regular guests for our episode 103 slash episode 4 of Nintendo News Report.
We prestiged.
Yeah.
Yep.
So here's your reminder that Nintendo News Report is now on iTunes, and episode 1 is episode 100 on YouTube, which means we did 100 of these YouTube things. Episode 100 became episode 1 of the iTunes, followed by episode 2, episode 3, and episode 4, which is the one you are watching live right now or listening to after the fact on iTunes. Nintendo News Report on iTunes. And that'll get integrated into the site very soon, but Nintendo News Report on iTunes. We're joined by Donald Terrio. Hello, Donald.
Hello, and I just became champion 65 hours later.
So it took you 65 hours to become champion of the Alola region?
Yes, but we will talk about the reasons for that later.
Okay, I actually have some thoughts on that game, especially as I play more of the post game and as I think about that game more. I have a lot of positive things to say, and maybe one or two criticisms that didn't become apparent to me until after I played a lot of it. The other voice you are hearing is Zach, who's eating right now. Hello, Zach.
Hi, Alex. It was my birthday 2 days ago.
Happy birthday, Zach. What are you, like 48?
34.
34, same thing.
Yep, it is, really.
Yeah, what are you eating right now? Is that like a cheese stick?
It is a cheese stick.
What is Zach almost, Donald?
He's almost out of that big advertising demographic.
Damn it.
Soon you're going to be not the person marketed to,
No.
and then the target audience of adult contemporary.
You know, I watch enough Jeopardy and Wheel that the advertisements I see are mostly for pills anyway.
That's beautiful.
And diabetes.
Yep.
Diabetes. Wilford Brimley's still alive.
He is.
I bet you didn't know that one.
The only person left after 2016, apparently.
2016 still got a month left, Donald. We still got a month. That dude from Firefly died like yesterday, so it's still going.
Heck, Shepard Book passed away a couple hours ago.
Really? Oh, jeez.
Yep.
Wilford Brimley looked like he was too old 20 years ago.
Yeah, he looked old in the thing.
Yeah.
Well, then again, we lost. I mean, you could tell something was going on this year because we lost Abe Vigoda.
Abe Vigoda.
That's right.
Well, yeah,
About that.
Wilford Brimley's only 82 years old.
It's going to be a long-ass in memoriam at the Oscars next year.
Yeah. Okay, so for this show, which actually should be a relatively uplifting show, hopefully, we have Black Friday, we have Pokemon talk, we have Switch rumors, because Pokemon and Switch are the two things you guys want to hear about. And then we got Swapdoodle, we got Lego City Undercover, we got all sorts of stuff. But first, I want to talk about Black Friday. And we're going to get to what Zach bought and what Donald bought in a second. But I want to talk about the stuff I bought first, because I have a lot of shit. And I am one of those people who likes to play every game that came out this year before the end of the year, which means I have a real doozy ahead of me. And I want to show you exactly what I bought in the last month on some substantial sale, which is either like a pre-Black Friday sale or a Black Friday sale that's happened before Black Friday, or a Black Friday sale or a day after Black Friday sale, as is the case with one of these games. So, here's what I got. I bought Star Fox Zero like a month ago, as I told you guys about.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
Right, that was on GameFly. $20.
Have you cracked that open yet?
I haven't, because I have a lot of other games, and almost all of them are sealed. Did we lose Donald? Donald, you're back?
Yeah, I just had to kill a fan.
Oh yeah, no, it's cool. I was just Star Fox Zero, $20, and that was about a month ago. The next thing I bought, Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse for $25 on a Best Buy sale a while ago after the Gamers Club unlocked. It ended up being about $25. It came with the pins too, which is really sick, which was the first run one.
The middle pin looks like the Doctor Strange symbol.
It does have that sort of Doctor Strangey look to it. Did you like Doctor Strange, Zach?
Mostly.
Yeah, that's fair. I would say maybe slightly in the not direction. That movie felt like there were like 20% of its scenes missing.
Yeah, that's actually absolutely true. Like
Yeah.
the middle section was so rushed.
Right, like it didn't take any time justifying the powers or abilities of Doctor
Exactly.
Strange.
Like
They
in
gave
Iron Man,
him-
like in
yeah.
Iron Man 1, the whole middle section of the film is devoted to him building his shit.
Right.
And in Doctor Strange, it's like, oh, I read some books.
Right, the way you get around that isn't by not doing the origin story stuff, it's about doing the origin story stuff better,
Right.
which Doctor Strange kind of skipped out on. It
Yeah.
reminds me of The Force Awakens, not to go on too much of a tangent, but it reminds me of The Force Awakens, how Rey's powers weren't really justified. She just kind of had
Any
that
point.
Mary Sue ability.
A little bit.
Little bit. Okay, so that's the first two games, that neither of which I've touched, which is a 10-hour game, well, beating everything, so much less than 10 hours, and a 40-hour game, probably. Isn't that right, Donald? 40 hours?
Something in that range. I think Neil said 50 in his review, but we'll see.
Okay. 2 days ago, I bought Forza Horizon 3, which is still sealed for $35.
I've heard that's good.
I hear it's very good too. I played the demo on Xbox One. And that's pretty cool. Here's something I bought the day after Black Friday, which is today. I bought Ratchet and Clank on PS4.
Nice. Excellent game.
It's a good game.
Oh, yeah.
Is the remake much better than the original? Because I couldn't get into the original when I played it a couple of years ago.
Yeah, the original sucks now.
Okay, so it didn't age very well. A lot of PlayStation games age very poorly, I've noticed.
Yeah, Ratchet and Clank Reboot takes all the modern conveniences of Ratchet and Clank and then takes out all of the extraneous stuff that they added later on, and just the whole thing is solidified into a sheen.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. I'm looking forward to this one because it was $10 at GameStop, which is a good price for that, because they dropped it to $20 after a few months, and then they cut that in half for Black Friday. I got Titanfall 2, which is still sealed, for $35 about a week ago on the Xbox One Black Friday sale, the Microsoft store. I ended up getting Hitman Season 1 complete for $30, but it ended up being like $8 after credit I had.
Nice.
I got Wolfenstein: The New Order for $5, and I got Castlevania Symphony of the Night for $3.
Huh.
So I have all those games. And then I got this little game, which came a couple days early. It's a little indie, so maybe you guys haven't heard of it. But it is Final Fantasy 15.
Oh, that game actually exists.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Look at this. Yeah, I was surprised because I did the day one delivery for Best Buy, and I looked at the tracking and I was like, oh, that game got to Boston a little sooner than I expected. And it was one of those kind of things where, because of the way they shipped out the games, I just ended up getting it 2 days or 3 days early if it comes out on Tuesday.
Yeah. So you're now the second person connected to NWR to have that game after Don Koopman.
Right, but he might have it for other reasons.
No, he walked into a store and bought it today.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I thought he was playing it, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, because when it comes to street dates, Europe don't give a fuck.
Okay, cool.
And see also why Pokemon got delayed a week.
Pokemon did get delayed a week. Yeah. Final Fantasy 15 is really good so far. 45 minutes in. The battle system is a little confusing like other Final Fantasy games, but the game looks graphically way better than it originally did in like the demos and stuff.
Oh, really?
The combat is a little more fun than the demo suggested. Like, it felt a little less like Witcher, and it felt a little more fluid like a JRPG in motion, which is what they were trying to do. And the idea of a road trip with 4 boys. It's been pretty good so far. So we'll see. And that's everything I bought, and I've touched almost none of it. The only gameplay I have across all of the games I listed is 45 minutes into Final Fantasy 15, and it is almost the end of November. So
you got this.
We shouldn't do Game of the Year until January, is what you're saying.
I actually kind of love the idea of Game of the Year in January because it gives us time to play everything that came out in the year.
Yeah. And the holidays with nothing else better to do. So that's my plan actually this year, is plow out what I can and hopefully make an informed decision about what's going to be below the 4 games of spite on my list.
That's the problem, was that 2016 was actually kind of a really good year for video games, but most of the really good video games came out in like a 2-week span.
Yeah, and on other systems besides Nintendo systems.
Right. Well, we had Paper Mario's Color
Oh, of
Splash,
course. What am I talking about? Paper Mario.
which, by the way, didn't have a single Black Friday deal this year.
Nope.
Which is cripplingly disappointing. Neither that nor Hatsune Miku.
Oh, yeah.
Well, those might come around Christmas time, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Donald, tell me what you bought on Black Friday 2016.
Because unfortunately Black Friday also falls on the last paycheck of the month, which goes to a little thing called rent. My Black Friday purchasing was limited, but I did get I sent an Xbox One controller out to my family in Alberta to get them ready for a potential Christmas gift. And
I'm probably going to Alberta next year.
Oh, nice. Mm-hmm. And I haven't done it yet, but I've got my eye on a few things in the Nintendo eShop Black Friday sale, which actually runs through December 5th, so I get paid again before that. So I'm looking at Kirby Mass Attack and Hyrule Warriors Legends because I traded in my copy, but I want to try that DLC.
Okay, do we know if that's a good version of the game? What I heard was it is a good version of a game if you have a new 3DS, but if you have a regular 3DS, you shouldn't bother because it's practically unplayable.
It is right. Literally unplayable on the old 3DS, but as somebody with a new one, it's kind of fine. My new 3DS is getting kind of beat up. I've thought about getting that it's 140 here, but
I did too.
The smaller model black and white ones. But that's probably going to be a Boxing Day thing for me.
I chickened out on that because ex-staffer Nathan Mustafa, friend of the show, Nathan Mustafa, bought one, and then he didn't like the screens so much that he rebought a new 3DS XL.
Yeah, there's something with you sort of have to play a lottery with the screens on those smaller 3DSs. Some of them, I forget the difference of the types, but there's two types of screens on there. One's really, really good. One's not so much.
Yeah. So I chickened out.
Yeah. And then, Zach, what about you?
I did get some stuff. The two digital things I bought were the Wii Kirby game at the Nintendo sale, whatever that's called, Return to Dreamland. Because that's on the same tier as Robobo and whatever the Hypernova one is, right? That's
Triple Deluxe, yeah. The Return to Dreamland was the predecessor for those two.
Yeah, so I'm excited to play that. I got, clearly Donald's Game of the Year, Hyper Neptunia Dimensional, whatever the fuck that one's called, on PS4 for like $8. It was the only one I didn't have. And then for actual Black Friday, I went out and got Season 10 of Bones for $7. So exciting. But then I did get this, Rise of the Tomb Raider for $35 at Target.
That's pretty good.
Comes with this stupid little booklet of art that I'll never look at. I played that for about 2 hours today. Really fantastic. And then this was not a Black Friday thing, but I got a new amiibo for my birthday.
Ooh, what game does that work with?
Well, I assume it will work with the
Armored Edition
version of Arkham Knight.
You mean Arkham City?
Yeah, exactly. The Return to Arkham Dual Pack that they'll release for Switch.
Arkham City Armored Edition.
Although I have to say, I'm seeing a lot of Lucina, Robin, Mega Man, and Samus around lately, so it's nice to see they've reopened the amiibo floodgates again.
They have, too. I went to Best Buy yesterday, and they had a lot of those, and I was like, oh, I have these games. I mean, these characters. I don't like the Fire Emblem characters.
Yeah.
Oh man, I forgot my Best Princess version 2 in the living room.
Oh yeah. I like the Smash one better because it's got Luma.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's my whole Black Friday experience.
That's cool. Black Friday, it's been good this year. The PC deals have been kind of crazy, but I don't play PC yet. I'm looking at Shadow Warrior for $3.99. That's a conversation for Nintendo World Report at night.
Yeah.
But I got a lot of good games this year, and it sounds like you guys got some good games.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about Pokemon.
Yes,
Donald's been
let's.
playing Pokemon.
Donald's been playing a lot of Pokemon.
65 hours. Where did 65 hours come from? Because you didn't get the game before launch.
Well, I did, but I preloaded it, so I couldn't play it until it launched. But
Okay.
but 65 hours, that was taking 4 different teams of entirely new Pokemon and raising them all up to the point that they could have gone after the Elite Four the first time if they wanted to.
I mean, that's not overkill.
Yeah.
No, but there's a lot, but there is a stupidly high percentage of new Pokemon that are at least interesting, if not good.
Okay, good.
What do you
I
think of Pokemon Sun, Donald? Or Pokemon Moon?
Well, I'm playing Sun. I do have Moon, but
okay.
there is a separate thing to play for that. Because Pokemon is sort of like my default game. Like it's the thing I go to when I don't really have anything else better to play at that point, which is not very often. But
Right.
I really enjoyed it. I think this new structure. I hope it's in future games. I think they really nailed it with the Pokemon designs this time. Even if it's just for the constructive purpose of using them in battle, there's a lot of new things in there that are really fun. The SOS battles are annoying, and to the person who decided to lock certain Pokemon behind those encounters and weather conditions, here's 2 of these.
What is an SOS battle?
Pokemon in this game can call for help.
Oh, that. Yeah, I knew that.
And you can't throw a Pokeball at a Pokemon until there's only one left. And that wouldn't be so bad if they only did it once or a limited number of times, but there's no real limit to how many times a Pokemon can do it. It's just kind of random, which means there are times when Pokemon will call a helper 3 times in a row.
Oh.
Yeah, go ahead.
And they've tied some mechanics like hidden abilities and better chance of better stats to that, doing it 30 or 40 times.
Oh,
in one
God.
fight.
Why would they do that?
Do
you at least get a ton of experience with fights like that?
Oh yeah, you get a good amount of experience out of it, consummate to the level. It's very time consuming.
Yeah.
And there's some Pokemon, because I'm one of those, I have to catch everything on the route before I leave. And some of the Pokemon only show up in SOS battles under route weather conditions, which made it really annoying to go hunt Gabite because it's in the middle of a sandstorm, which damages you every turn.
Hmm.
And every Pokemon on that route does either swagger, lowers your accuracy, or just flat out confuses you.
But you like it a lot, Donald.
I like the game. That's the little thing that keeps it from being like a black and white caliber game.
Right.
Also Zubat, but well, unless you're black and white, there's always going to be Zubat.
Right. Pokemon Sun, I finally scored the game. I had a review in progress, but I did score the game. I gave it an 8.5, which I think is the right score for that game. And then I would call it, you agree, Donald?
That's about where I would have gone with it, yeah.
Okay. Sun and Moon are great, borderline excellent Pokemon games that have 2 or 3 really serious issues that keep it from being the best Pokemon game. For instance, SOS battles are way too involved. There are way too many of them, and way too many stuff is gated behind the SOS battles. 2, I love how they do the Pokemon centers, how they're more naturally integrated into the world, but there are far too many Pokemon centers in the world, I would say. It feels almost a little handholdy at times. 3, I would say the story is good at times, but is almost as weak as the X and Y story to a certain extent, because there isn't much of a story. Like Team Skull doesn't get enough time. What are they called? The Ether Foundation? They don't get enough time. And then the Ultra Beast stuff, that stuff doesn't even become a plot point until, I won't spoil anything, but further in the game than it should be. Worst of all, I'm kind of the opinion that Alola isn't the best region. I like the way they designed Alola, and I love the spirit behind Alola, and I love the way Pokemon feel natural. But actually traversing Alola, actually exploring Alola, I wouldn't call it the best experience in the whole world.
Yeah, especially right like the first thing I did after I beat the game was I went out and went after the Island Guardians, and having to hop from one ferry to another ferry just to move from island to island, that got annoying.
Right. That game gets slightly annoying. What's up with you, Zach? Why'd you ditch the call, my friend?
My computer reset itself, and Audacity was not recovered.
Oh, what does that mean for us, Zach? Does that mean I need to record the call after the show? Does that mean...
It means my track will have cut off whatever we just talked.
Okay, here's what we should do. I say, sorry to everyone watching this live. Donald, let me ask you if this makes sense. Would it make sense if we stopped right now, saved it, and then started a new track just for the heck of it?
Ooh.
Or would it make more sense if I just don't care about this and then just record the MP3 after the fact and then just put it up as the audio?
I think given the circumstances, if we want to clap out and clap in, that'd be fine, but it's your call here.
Okay, here's what I think. Zach, do you actually have a finished audio file?
No, it won't recover. I mean, there's nothing left.
Oh, so I don't even have the first 30 minutes or whatever.
No.
Okay. What we need to do then is we will not use this Audacity, and the final YouTube video will go up on iTunes. Zach, I forgive you.
I'm so sorry.
It's
I don't know why it happened. It's just all of a sudden, oh, the screen's black. Huh.
Okay. Is that going to happen again, Zach, do you think?
I hope not. The only other time this happened was during an unfortunate episode of Jeopardy.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Sorry about that, guys. Back to our regular scheduled programming. Pokemon Sun and Moon. Yes, I agree with everything I just said. I agree with everything you just said, Donald.
Yeah, and I have to say the final battle, like before the credits roll, well, the second to last battle before the credits roll, because there's one other one, like there was in X and Y, with a little bit higher stakes, but anyway, that last boss fight had RNG going against me that I haven't seen outside of a battle facility, like a battle tower, battle maison.
We're talking about the quote-unquote final boss of the game.
Yeah, and he pulled out this trainer pulled out a Snorlax that I think used Body Slam on me about 9 times.
Oh,
when
God.
my Pokemon wasn't paralyzed, and all but one paralyzed it.
Okay.
So that final fight was very hard for a team that was a couple of levels under, but almost at the same level. Maybe next time I'll bring a fighting type with me.
Yeah. I was a little over-leveled for it.
Yeah, my teams going into, aside from the fact that I had Solageo with me, every other Pokemon that I had raised to that point was level 53. And they went up to about 56 by the time this was over.
But discounting the fact that it was a relatively challenging fight. And I actually like that to an extent, because X and Y, it's like there was a small peak of difficulty at the beginning and just had no difficulty for the rest of the game. This game, despite its EXP share, actually does face a difficulty spike at the end of the game I really appreciated.
Yeah, and it's not like you can pop in it's not like the legendary is an instant win button in this one, because there's really only a few fights left to use it after you catch it.
Right. Yeah. What I will say is that I actually thought, from a story perspective, that final fight, the context for that final fight, which I won't say anything about, is one of my favorite 10 parts of the Pokemon series.
Yeah.
It's so cool what they decide to do, how they twist that formula a little bit for that final fight is so cool that it kind of calls back to a moment in the original games that almost happened but didn't happen.
And
if you know exactly what I'm talking about, Donald.
yeah,
And I think that boss fight knows what it's doing too.
Yeah, and the music for it I noticed was even had shades of the classic champion music from Red and Blue.
That's the coolest moment in that entire game.
Yeah.
Except there's some post-game stuff I can't talk about because the Ultra Beast stuff also has some sick moments in it too.
Yeah. And are you now at liberty to reveal what that Pokemon you and Neil were crowing about last week is?
Yeah, Toucanon is the sickest Pokemon in that entire generation.
Yes.
Toucanon is the Hawlucha of Gen 7.
And it's the evolution of the earliest bird. The only problem is he really doesn't get to his full potential because the frickin' move returner's in the last Pokemon Center of the game.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Wait, what?
The move, like the move tutor or the move returner from previous games, it's back. They've improved it because it can do any move of any level, whether it's before or after. But to counter that, they put it in the Pokemon Center that is right before the Pokemon Lake.
Oh, that is
a very mean thing to do, especially if you want to use, say, Marowak in the site. Because Marowak has a move that it learns at level 27, except it evolves at level 28.
Oh, jeez.
And it's a really good one. And I'm proud when I do Moon, I want to do it Alolan forms only, so I might have to cheat a little bit.
Right. I'm a little pissed off that Hawlucha was not in Smash. Really should have been.
Hawlucha is the most iconic Pokemon from that generation to Alex.
Easily.
Greninja's cool, but he's not that cool.
No, he's just a frog with a really long tongue.
Right. It's like Zoroark, where they expected it would be picked up as the super cool Pokemon, but it wasn't necessarily.
Not at all.
Yeah. Yes.
So
Toucanon is sick. It's so pissed off if you don't know what Toucanon looks like and you are interested.
No.
Just
I'm blacked out.
Catch the first bird in the game, level it up, and you will get the angriest fucking Pokemon you have ever seen. That's all I'll say.
So, I asked Donald this before we started, but I'll ask you, and maybe this will jump into the next topic. Should I buy Sun and Moon, or should I wait for Stars?
Oh, what a fantastic transition, Zachary Miller. Yeah, starting off our news discussion / transitioning out of our Pokemon discussion. Pokemon Stars is now heavily rumored, just as heavily rumored as that Mario game or any other Nintendo Switch game. Like, it's the Splatoon, it's been as heavily rumored as everything else that now we know exists. Pokemon Stars is the rumored third version of Pokemon Sun and Moon. It was supposedly developed at the same time as Pokemon Sun and Moon, Switch only. We don't know exactly what the game is going to be like, but there's some word that there could be more Pokemon, although that rumor comes around at literally every third version, and it hasn't happened yet, but maybe this could be the time since it is the third version of Sun and Moon, and it's going to be in HD. It's going to be the first Pokemon console game. I think you should play Sun and Moon now, except if Stars does end up actually existing, it's going to be slightly tough for me to play it because Alola's the kind of region that's only super fun to play through once, and I don't think it's going to be as infinitely replayable as Kanto, Johto, Hoenn was. Okay. It's not as bad as Kalos, but it is one of the weakest generations, I would say, terrain-wise, in the entire series. Which is something I'm only coming to terms with after last week's podcast and playing substantially more, including all the post-game. Donald, what say you?
I'll disagree for for Kalos not being replayable on the grounds that I did play it 21 times.
Ew, that's gross, Donald.
And I'm tempted to do that again. And I have a chart ready that I could do that again with Alola, just doing single type runs plus the one run through Moon.
Do you think it's because
that's
of how
right,
linear the region is that you're enjoying it?
I think that's something to do with it. But just for me, Pokemon games are, when I'm replaying them, it's because I'm interested in seeing how would this type adapt to the challenges that the game throws at me.
Right.
Hmm.
So then, what else do you think about my recommendation for Pokemon Star?
I'd say if this turns out to be legitimate, then we're probably going to find that out on January 12th. So I would, if you're gonna get it, I would get it now, because otherwise, if you don't have it by January, I would only pick up Sun and Moon if it turns out that this becomes something different, because I have a lot of questions about how a Switch game is going to communicate with a 3DS game if they're both supposed to be in the same generation.
Yeah.
Because we had a situation with Gold, Silver, and Crystal where Crystal was only on the Game Boy Color, but Gold and Silver could also play on the Game Boy Color. So this will be the first time a Pokemon generation has been explicitly split between two different consoles.
Right. Yeah, I guess you're right. Pokemon, I would almost say Gold, Silver, Crystal is the first time, but I also agree that this is a more complete split.
Yeah, because like I said, I played Silver on a Game Boy Color plenty of times, but I also played it on a Super Game Boy.
Yeah.
Whereas Crystal was, well, I could only play in Stadium 2 if I wanted to play it on the TV.
Donald, what do you think of me at least calling Alola a somewhat weaker Pokemon region?
I can see it. I'm probably gonna need to go through it again to see if I feel the same way. And we just lost Zach again.
Yeah,
but
we made the right call just recording it after the fact.
Yeah, but I think I can certainly see where you're coming from. I don't know if I'm going to feel the same way. Maybe playing through Moon will help calcify that, especially with the alternate time thing that they do with it. But but issues with island hopping aside, and why is the fly Pokemon Charizard when you can't catch a Charizard in this game? It's like I said, I can see where you're coming from as it being weaker, but there were some things on there that I did enjoy, and the mere fact that you don't have to use HMs for any of this stuff is a godsend.
Yeah. That is the best feature of Pokemon Sun and Moon. I've seen one or two people on forums defending HM and lamenting their loss. No. I think those people are crazy. I think HMs did not tie into the difficulty at all.
No. They just made you bring Bidoof everywhere.
I didn't have a water Pokemon this entire game. And there's something annoying about that when you need a water Pokemon, but there's also something liberating about the fact that you don't need a water Pokemon. And I would say this is the first generation where you don't need a single water Pokemon on your team, and you will be 100% fine.
Damn.
When I did the monotype runs in Pokemon X, there was the runs where I had a water type were a lot easier than the ones where I didn't and had to haul somebody with Surf out.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons I can do something like Alolan forms only, because there's no Alolan water types. Although there was that rumor of Alolan Growlithe being water type, which would have been very interesting. Yeah. I would have liked to have seen the moves that the HMs had buffed and then become TMs, like happened with a couple in this game. But the fact that those aren't gated to progress anymore it's a long overdue move.
Stars is probably going to happen, though, right? I vote 80% chance that we see Stars in January.
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
It's.
I wonder if Stars will somehow connect to Sun Moon, so that Sun Moon players, will not get suckered into buying it again. Totally.
It would have to. I mean, if it's the same generation, they would have to connect somehow, whether through bank alone or something else. Because you'd still have to be able to do things like evolve your Haunter into a crippled Gengar.
Do we want to talk about some of that other Switch stuff?
Oh, the very long list that came out last week.
Yes, as pointed out by RK, and then a series of numbers. Lowercase Dale is also saying there's a Xenoblade Export and Mario Maker is coming within 6 months of launch. Matthew Wilson. By the way, Matthew Wilson. Very Pokemon-y question before we move on to that. What do you think happens when people use Pokemon Bank and bring in Surf and HMs that were good? I think they just get transferred to the TMs because I'm pretty sure every HM can now be collected as a TM.
They only turned 3 of them into TMs, as I recall: Fly, Surf, and Waterfall.
But they're just treated like other moves, as far as I know, right?
Yeah. So at that point,
can
you
be
would just
deleted.
be able. Yeah. So you'd be able to overwrite, cut, and Surf, and all that with other moves if you choose to. And that's why I don't recall seeing a move deleter in this game, just that move tutor.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you can, if you want to overwrite something, just overwrite it as a TM.
Tell me about the Nintendo Switch and Lowercase Dale's list of Nintendo Switch video games.
Okay, so it's a 3-part list. So we had the 3D Mario shown in the reveal trailer. This sort of blew up the same day that Pokemon Stars first did. Mario Rabbids RPG, developed by Ubisoft, being overseen by Nintendo to ensure day one availability.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It makes sense, but I don't want it. I don't know if anyone actually wants that.
The marketing department does. Although, if there was going to be a Ubisoft-published RPG on the Switch on day one, I would probably rather have South Park.
Oh, yeah.
The Splatoon port, which has pack-in ? Which is mainly for which I think the rumor was that there'd be 2 SKUs of the Switch, one just with the system and Joy-Con and grip, and the other would be more memory and a game, which would be the Splatoon port, which would make sense, especially in Japan. Skyrim, which Todd Howard sort of backhandedly confirmed in an interview this week, and Just Dance 2017, which is guaranteed day and date.
That's all launch?
That's all launch. And
Splatoon's the most exciting one of those. Well, Mario's Mario, but...
Yeah. Then the first 6 months, Smash Brothers port / Game of the Year edition, which would also be when the Bayonetta and Cloud amiibo would launch. No word on Corrin as of yet, which kind of surprises me, unless they want to do male and female versions of it, which I wouldn't mind. Breath of the Wild coming in there, both versions. And then we had the leaks out of Europe this week, which suggested that the Switch version would actually come first. And not necessarily. And it would also come out the day after E3 ends, which is certainly going to make our reviewers very happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you wonder why Neil skips E3 this year, that's probably why. The next Telltale game is supposed to be Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's going to have weekly episodes leading up to the second movie. Is also supposed to come to Switch. The Silver Case, which is it a Suda 51 game?
Yes, it's an old Suda 51 game that got remade for the modern consoles.
Yeah, and I think Limited Run Games sold versions of that. That's supposed to be first 6 months. Mario Kart 8 port with some additions. A Xenoblade Chronicles X port, which is apparently not being handled by Monolith Soft.
Hello, Monster Games.
Yeah, how'd that NASCAR game go for you? Welcome back. But that would be a very good thing to have portably full time.
Oh, maybe they'll put back in the full character customization.
Let's not go there. And a Mario Maker port. I could see that, given if there is, because the CEO of GameStop indicated that there'd be some sort of motion control on the Joy-Cons, possibly because I remember seeing, wasn't there a rumor of an IR port of some kind on the Joy-Con?
Yeah.
So that could be used for some sort of motion, which would be a little less intuitive than the gamepad or a general touchscreen for level creation, but it could work. 2017 has the Sonic game, which has already been announced for the Switch. Pokemon Stars, which was initially slipped to summer, may have slipped to autumn. If you ask me, it's slipped to November 20, whatever the Friday before Thanksgiving is. Pikmin 4, not called Pikmin 4, now a reboot. Probably an autumn game, and if I had to guess, that would probably be in the Woolly World slot.
Pikmin 0.
Yeah. And then 2018 is Beyond Good and Evil semi-reboot, not a sequel, and Switch exclusive.
Oh please, oh please, oh please, oh please.
All of that stuff is super believable.
Some of it. Most of it.
The most unbelievable thing to me, the thing I believe the least, is actually the Xenoblade Chronicles X port.
Oh, really?
I don't see the world where they put that much effort in bringing Xenoblade Chronicles X to a new generation. I acknowledge the possibility, maybe even probability if I'm wrong. None of these were vetted, as Arcade pointed out back to us, except I still just think a Xenoblade Chronicles X port does not make sense.
I can, like I said, I tried to play Xenoblade Chronicles X portably when I reviewed it for the site about this time last year, and the experience of playing that game off TV is suboptimal.
Yeah,
but it would probably be way better if in a Switch situation where you're taking the whole thing with you. At the very least, you'd be able to see what the heck's going on that screen.
Well, but in James's recent article, he said that the screen is not significantly larger than the Wii U gamepad screen.
But it's a higher resolution screen.
I see. Okay.
So at minimum, it's Vita spec more. I think the rumors were 720p.
Yeah.
Okay.
That flows way better for Xenoblade X than the 480p screen on the gamepad would.
Yeah. Most unbelievable thing to me is Beyond Good and Evil 2, because I've learned to be disappointed over the last decade.
Yeah, and the fact that game is coming out in 2018, it would be about a decade actually since we first heard about it.
Yeah.
What percentage of AAA video games coming out today are either A, an expanded port, or B, a half remake? Or not a half remake, a half reboot that takes the old games and brings it into the modern era. And between Xenoblade Chronicles X and Mario Kart and Splatoon hitting the port category, and between Zelda Breath of the Wild and Beyond Good and Evil 2, and potentially Mario hitting
Pikmin 0.
And Pikmin 0 hitting the partial reboot, in the same way that Final Fantasy 15 is a little bit, in the same way that you got Ratchet and Clank, in the same way you got Pokemon, in the same way you got Star Fox, in the same way you got all these other games, that's got to be like 30 or 40% of the AAA output that's been happening, right?
I would say half and half.
Half sequels?
Sequels, HD remakes, and reboots. Yeah, that sounds like most of the lineup that we've gotten out of the AAA, especially in the West.
Reboots. Half reboots
Yeah.
that still take place in the same universe as the original games, but aren't the exact same thing.
You know what the sad thing about Pikmin 0 is? Just it's going to be another remake of Star Fox 64.
Ansel apparently says Beyond Good and Evil needs another 3 to 4 years, so that rumor may have been debunked. Okay.
Well, when did it enter pre-production? Like 2 months ago for a AAA game in this game.
It entered pre-production 4 months ago for the 8th time. Yeah.
Beyond Good and Evil 2 is currently in the bar napkin stage of development.
It's the elevator pitch.
And you thought Bayonetta 2 took a while.
Oh God.
Remember the first trailer was just people drawing pictures of Bayonetta? Yeah.
That game came out though.
Yeah, that came,
Yeah.
and it only took
And it was
2
like
years.
one of the best Wii U games, apparently.
Yeah, and it was only 2 years from reveal to launch, unlike some other games I could mention. But yeah, the other thing is that there's one game that got announced for the Switch this week that is not on this list. But seeing as most of the rumors for this are coming from Nintendo and Ubisoft, that doesn't surprise me.
Lego City Undercover, and it has like a title now, right? It has a different title, Chase something something.
Not to be confused with the Chase Begins, which is which was the 3DS
3DS game, now available for $20 on Nintendo Selects for whatever reason. Lego City Undercover, the Wii U game, is getting ported in Ubisoft style, despite being a Warner Bros. Game.
The
to
tragically
PS4,
handicapped Wii U launch game.
to PS4. Well, not launch game. It was like in the following March.
Oh,
It was
okay.
PS4.
The Wii U's launch window was. Yeah, the Wii U's launch window was so long that March would have been a launch window game for it.
As far as I'm concerned, the Wii U launch window has not fully closed. There's a little breeze coming through.
Mario Maker was a launch window game.
Yeah. Oh boy. Okay.
But yeah, Lego City Undercover is fun. If you want to know more about Lego City Undercover, listen to any of the past 27 RFNs.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lego City Undercover.
So
Guillaume's been playing the shit out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've gotten HD remake, or we gotten remakes for Lego City Undercover and Twilight Princess HD. Trying to think, who do I have to kill to get another Mother 3 retroactive?
Yeah. Lego City, I never played that game, and I can't wait for my first opportunity to play that game at about February 2018 when it becomes a PlayStation Plus game.
Yeah. Wait for years. If they say the load time's really awful, stay away.
It gets that famed Zombie U slot, or Zombie.
Yeah, I bought that game with some extra money at Christmas 2014. I believe it just finished loading.
Yep. Just past the initial load screen. You can select your file now.
Well, I feel like we should have more to say about this, and there's part of me that's always disappointed when exclusive games go to other consoles. I was more disappointed with Zombie U than I was with this, because Zombie U felt like an inherently Wii game, but this should probably get ported. Like this you have more of a case for this being ported than Zombie did, which apparently was a poor port in the first place.
Yeah, in all seriousness, I did play Lego City a bit. It didn't really use the gamepad all that extensively, so this does make sense as a port job. I have to ask though, if this opens the door for Bayonetta 2, did Nintendo sign a 4-year licensing deal with this like they apparently did for Lego City, or was that one longer?
Interesting.
That one's a forever game, I think. It's gotta be. Because I'm pretty sure Nintendo had more of a hand. This would be a great topic for Neil, because this is the kind of stuff that Neil's great at knowing. I know, or at least I think, Nintendo did some assistance on Lego City Undercover, but I don't think it was very much.
Yeah, and there was some
Nintendo cameo things in that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think you could make a warp pipe in that game, which I don't see how that would carry over to the PS4 and Xbox One versions.
Right.
Yeah.
Or the Steam version.
This is cool, right?
Sure.
I don't want it, but it's going to be $20. They didn't announce it, I don't think, but it's got to be $20.
I don't know. This seems like something they might
40.
do 40 or even full
But
price
it won't be
on.
60. This won't be 60. There's no way. They would be drunk.
Depending on what they do to it, I can see being 60. 40 to 60.
This is WB we're talking about, and I would stay far away from the PC version on that one if that's the case.
Also, because it's a Lego game, if you wait 6 months, it'll be on a flash sale for $8.
That is not inaccurate. Okay. That is our Lego City Undercover talk. What else do we have here? We talked about Pokemon Stars, talked about Pokemon Sun Moon, talked about Black Friday. talked about Lego City Undercover. Ooh, we have 2 topics left, and they should go relatively quickly. Donald, tell me a little bit about Pokemon Go.
Yes, that's apparently still around. And they launched some new things this week, including random Dittos, which started as Pidgey and Rattata, but well, there you go. And so they've done that. They've also they've adjusted the points for catching Pokemon, so some of the more broken ones will be a little harder to get. And also the nearby feature, which was supposed to replace some of the tracking stuff that Niantic really cracked down on around launch. They've expanded that to all of Australia and basically the western part of North America, of continental North America. So sorry, Zach, no Alaska.
I see. I would love to
And
see an article. Yeah, go ahead, Donald.
yeah, and this update also apparently it also showed some Johto native Pokemon in it, so we could be seeing new Pokemon very soon.
Very soon, which I think is the right time because I think it would be very cool. There's a great article somewhere out there that does not exist yet, but one day potentially will, that shows the evolution of Pokemon Go from launch to its peak, its very quick peak, to where it's been since its peak throughout 2016. Like, I'm very curious, where's Pokemon Go right now compared to where it was so long ago? What does the diehard Pokemon Go community look like at November 26th, 2016? What is it going to look in 2017? And more importantly, how does that compare to the Clash of Clans, to the mobile strike, to all of those types of games at this stage in their life?
Yeah, because I mean, Pokemon Go is still like one of the top grossing apps on the App Store. I wonder how much of it is going to get upstage when Mario Run comes out in a couple of weeks. But I think they're doing enough that I'm still seeing a lot of Pokemon Go like on my own Twitter feed with people who maybe aren't as into the 3DS games as I am, which is basically everybody but you. But yeah, you and Joe Merrick. But the I think, I mean, it's had its peaks and valleys. It's dropped out of top slots and all that on the top grossing charts. But these events, like there's a Thanksgiving event on right now where you get more money and items out of Pokestops. So there is still some growth there, and a lot of people are getting in when these things happen. I think as you start to see more Pokemon come in, and they maybe cycle out some of the vendor trash that we've been seeing in this early portion, that you'll probably see more. It'll probably maintain a pretty steady uptick, and Nintendo will still make a pretty penny from it for the foreseeable future.
I have no mobile experience, no mobile development or marketing experience, but try this one on for size. Christmas Day, a lot of kids open up their new phones, their new 3G iTouches, and they install Pokemon Go, the game they finally hear about. I bet there are a lot more phones in the wild on December 25th than there are on December 24th. At least a certain percent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've worked for cell phone carriers in the past, and the activation servers always crash on December 25th because of people activating phones.
Excellent. Now, if you want a second server to crash, and if you want something that'll jumpstart Pokemon Go again, you want 2 events. You want 1, the implementation of Johto Pokemon, and 2, on Christmas Day, you have 2 options for a special Pokemon. 1, you throw out Mew. Christmas Day, play on Christmas, get Mew in these locations. The other alternative, a Pikachu wearing a Santa hat.
I would probably take the Mew, although where I'm going to be this Christmas doesn't really allow for that. But I bet you more people than you would think would probably go for the Pikachu.
Right, which is what I'm saying. If Pokemon Go needs to be kickstarted again, that's the way you do it. Christmas Day, you implement Johto, and you implement either Mew or Pikachu with a Christmas hat, or a legendary Pokemon for the first time. They need to officially implement some legendary Pokemon, and I think Christmas Day is absolutely the way to do it. Zach Miller is having technical difficulties. He apologizes. He is indeed calling his brother. That's all you're going to hear from him for this episode. He is on Twitter at ZMiller1902. ZMiller1902. MILLER1902. We are almost done with the show, so it won't create too much of a difficulty, and we will say his Twitter name again. But Zachary Miller is indeed done for the show. We have some comments. RK says, assuming Marvel vs. Capcom 4 gets revealed as rumored next week, I wonder if a Switch version is happening. I say no.
The rumor is that it's being announced either at the Capcom Cup or PlayStation Experience. If it's announced at the Capcom Cup, I could see it being multi-platform, but a PSX announcement would imply some sort of exclusivity, at least timed, if not outright. Right. So probably if it gets announced at PSX, I think the best a Nintendo fan could hope for would be Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 4 whenever that comes out.
Yeah, you make a good point, Dom.
Which would be a shame, because that would be be very interesting to have that on a Nintendo platform and see if that gets the uptick that from having like Smash Brothers and Pokken on Nintendo platforms to begin with.
Right. Donald, we have one more thing to talk about. Tell me about Swapdoodle very quickly, and then we will call it a show.
Yeah, so Swapdoodle, the long-lost brother of the dearly departed Swapnote, came out last week. Came out of nowhere. Like, the first time anybody heard of it was when it showed up in the downloads press release. And then we realized, oh my God, it's because there was some very real incidents in Japan that caused the Spot Pass functionality of Swapnote to be removed from that application, effectively rendering it useless.
Mm-hmm.
But it has come back. It has come back with the only way it does it is online. You have to agree to see someone's notes, and they have to agree to see yours, and then you become buddies and see everything. But the other big difference is that with Swapnote, you could buy a lot of extra things with either playing using the application or with play coins. That has become real money.
Oh, of course it has.
Yeah, like additional pens, stationery, and drawing lessons, which are sort of like Art Academy things, which basically let you trace out designs, are built in, but a lot of that stuff is behind a cash money paywall.
Yeah. Nintendo needs to retire the 3DS, or they don't need to retire the 3DS. It's going to happen within 2.5 years. But when Nintendo retires the 3DS, what they need to do on their next handheld is they need to come up to modern console Vita standards. If there is a next console that is not the Switch, because if it's the Switch, then it just takes the Switch's implementation. But if Nintendo does a new handheld that is like the DS or is a pure handheld and is not in the Switch family, what they need to do is they need to add a messaging system that has all the features of Swapnote, and is built into the core of that system. Because the idea of opening up an app, having to have it load, having to do all this stuff that takes, I would say, a good 45 seconds longer than any other messaging app on any other non-Nintendo console that has ever existed. It veers into unacceptable territory in 2016, Donald. Yeah,
I think I'm one of the heavier users of Swapdoodle and Swapnote, but that's because I'm in a Street Pass group that has a lot of people, and we don't all have the same social interactions. So I put up with Swapdoodle for now because it's a common platform for a bunch of 3DS owners. Hopefully, the next console has something more robust and faster built into it.
I agree.
Because I think right now you have 3 different ways of communicating with others on Nintendo systems between Miiverse, Swapnote, and Swapdoodle. They need to sort that out ASAP and have it hopefully on the Switch on day one. It came in under the radar, but just to make sure, Swapdoodle is a better Swapnote that utilizes real microtransactions and has better protection. Yep.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. I will say the one thing they could do with this, because there is a download code option in the cash shop, put up Swapdoodle stuff as my Nintendo rewards,
Yeah.
because I would use the hell out of that if it was an option, because I have about 3,000 coins right now that are doing nothing.
I recommend anyone listens to episode 2 of Nintendo News Report on iTunes if you want to hear my thoughts on My Nintendo. But My Nintendo is a service that could really use all kinds of free, redeemable, downloadable digital goods. And I think this is their excuse to get 10% better. They won't get much better. They'll still be actively bad, but this will get them 10% better, Donald, and I could not agree more.
Yeah.
I think that's our show.
Yeah.
I think that's our show. I'm looking at the chat. I'm looking at everyone watching. I think that's our show. iTunes. You should look us up on iTunes. You should subscribe to us on iTunes. You got Donald, you got Neil, you got me, you got Zach. We have guests once in a while. Don Koopman was on last week talking to me and Neil about Pokemon. Up every single week. We talk about Nintendo news. We talk about all kinds of fun stuff. This week we talked about our Black Friday stuff. And the episodes go up. It's audio. It generally sounds better than this one, except this week when Zach's audio stuff broke, so I have to literally use the video audio. But most weeks we do record it natively on much nicer microphones, and it will sound much better. Either way, you'll be able to get a consistent RSS feed of a podcast, just like any other podcast you ever did here. Also, patreon.com/NWR. Support the site. Keep us going. We love you if you support us. We love you anyway, but we love you if you support us. Donald's on Twitter at DonaldMick, DonaldMick. Zach is on Twitter at ZMiller1902, ZMILL1902. Don't forget to listen to Nintendo Free Radio. That's Donald's other podcast. And then also, I was on the most recent Radio Free Nintendo. So listen to me talk about Pokemon for all 35 minutes. Listen to me answer some emails, talk to the RFN guys. It's a pretty good episode on a pretty good show. It is also the unofficial Radio Free Nintendo 500. Not really, but that's what I like to call it because it would have been the 500th numbered episode. It was really good. I recommend you listen to it. I'm on Twitter at CULAFIA. And I know you got something else to say, Donald. Tell me about it.
Well, Zach is Z Miller, MILLER 1902. And next week, the Game Awards. That will be interesting because there's already been some controversy.
Did I not say Z Miller 1902?
You just said ZM. You left the ER when you were spelling it out, but it's fine.
ILLER 1902. Happens to the best of us. Game Awards. Do we think we were going to talk about that? I mentioned that on the show originally. Donald, very quick. Do you think there's anything?
I think we might get one thing. I think it might be tied to the most anticipated game category, which Zelda is in. And that and Pokemon Go are the only Nintendo relevant things I can see actually winning anything on Thursday night.
Two potential things, because Nintendo's been there in the past. The first Breath of the Wild footage was on there.
Right.
On the Game Awards, or at least whatever Keeley's was on at that point.
Yeah, it was the Game Awards.
And it was the Game Awards.
And last year they had the tribute to Iwata.
Okay. But so I think Breath of the Wild or Johto Pokemon. I think both of those are very possible things.
Yeah, we don't have time to get into the stupidity of best mobile/handheld.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a whole other conversation to be had about the fact that Project AM2R and Pokemon Uranium both were in best fan creation and then had to be pulled out.
That's ridiculous.
Jeff Keighley did issue a statement saying that because of the questionable legality of using those assets or those properties in the case of Pokemon, and the fact that those are technically no longer available, they had to pull them.
Okay. That's our show. Z Miller, ZMILLER 1902, Donald Mick, DONALDMICK, Kulafia, CULAFIA, iTunes Nintendo News Report, NintendoWorldReport.com, Patreon.com/NWR. That is a show. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.